Hello, everyone, and welcome to Screenworks. My name is Jon Uriarte, and I'm curator of digital programs at the Photographers Gallery in London. Screenworks is a collaborative program by the Photographers Gallery and Photomuseum Winterthur, supported by Prolbetia. If you have joined us in any of our previous 10 events, we are very happy to have you back after our well-deserved and much enjoyed break. If this is the first time you are joining us or live or watching this recording, Screenworks is a fortnightly series of live stream events exploring digital and online spaces to investigate issues related to the photographic and network cultures, as well as notions of so-called post-photography. Each event has a very fluid format that can sit in between a performance, a lecture, a workshop, or a conversation. We offer the possibility to sneak over the shoulder of our guests and interact with them while they share the knowledge and the context that they have on their desktops or their cell phone, as you will see today. You can visit our website, screenworks.com, as well as our YouTube and Twitch channels, where you will find the recordings of our previous events. For those of you in Zoom, your microphone should be muted. If not, please mute it now. If you have any questions, you can send them to me or to Marco through a private message in the public chat. This event is being recorded and will be archived, so please don't activate your camera if you don't want to be recorded.
And hello from me too. My name is Marco Demutis, and I work as digital curator at Photomuseum Winterthur. Today, we're happy to kick off our new season of explorations with an extremely rich program. John and I have invited Zaiba Jabbar to take us through the augmented space of face filters and AR masks. Contemporary augmented reality technology has become increasingly popular in visual culture and platforms of image exchange. Integrating computer vision and object recognition and incorporated into the smartphone applications, AR has transformed the representation of the self, both human and animal, and challenged ideas of identity, notions of gender, and the politics of computer-mediated realities. Zaiba Jabbar will talk about this and much more, introducing us to the emerging community of artists and creators that are developing artistically and culturally significant works with this technology, while at the same time questioning the limitations and issues of the platforms that enable such works. Zaiba Jabbar is an award-winning director, independent curator, and founder of Her Visions, a London-based femme-focused curatorial agency, celebrating and promoting artists working across emergent technologies and platforms with a strong focus on the intersection of art, technology, and culture. With over a decade of experience in the film and media sectors, her curatorial practice with Her Visions is an investigation into how people at the margins are using technology to create art outside of traditional contexts and making space for themselves in the digital environment. Jabbar was curator in residence at Lux in 2018 and is a board member of Abandoned Normal Devices. Now, after her presentation, Zaiba will be joined by Maria Tan, Scarlet and Mathilde Rougier in a discussion about augmented reality, sustainability, and feminism, period awareness, and activism. So make sure to check that after her presentation. So the speaker who will join her in this panel discussion are Maria Tan, who is a design and outreach officer at Child Rights International Network, whose practice focuses on creative technologies, illustration, graphic and interactive design with an interest in social good. She is a member and network facilitator for the Digital Maker Collective, where she helps coordinate data exchange events between Child Rights International Network and other networks at Tate Modern, focusing on digital technologies such as facial recognition, surveillance, deepfake, and artificial intelligence and its effect on our lives. She is co-founder of Ricebox Studio, a design studio focused on using creative technology for social good. Scarlet is an interdisciplinary designer based in London. She's a graduate of BA Fashion Women's Wear degree at Central St. Martin's, where she was awarded the LVMH Maison Zero Green Trail Prize and the Mills Textile Prize. Her work focuses on tactility, tangibility, and digital virtual realities. Having worked in couture atelier, biolabs, and digital fabrication labs, she intends to research in depth and develop innovative approaches to on the intersection of fashion, design, and technology. Working across mediums of textiles, crafts, biodesign, performance, and AR, VR, her works discuss on the compilation and correlation of narrative materiality within the state of flux. The third speaker of the panel is Mathilde Rougier, who is a multidisciplinary fashion designer working across the field of generative design, modular textiles, augmented reality, virtual design, and upcycled materials. Her practice focuses on the body within a sustainable and digital context. She explores themes of digital deterioration, glitch, file corruption, and image generation. Mathilde's work is centered on creating systemic change in the fashion industry in order to achieve a more circular model. So finally, after the screen walk tonight, Mathilde Rougier will also lead a live stream workshop titled Dressing Your Digital Identity on our Twitch channel. And the focus will be the upcycling with augmented reality. So make sure to stay after our time in Zoom and check the live stream on Twitch to get a chance to learn how to use the tools to produce AR works. And just a reminder, in order to follow Mathilde's workshop, please install the Spark AR software, which is available at sparkar.facebook.com. You can go now if you haven't done that before, so you still have time to download it and have it ready by the time that the workshop starts. Okay, as I said, it's a very rich program full of super interesting people, and we can't wait to get started. So Zaiba, thank you so much for joining us and accepting our invitation. The screen is yours.
Thank you, John and Marco, for having me. I'm incredibly grateful for this opportunity to deliver the screen walk. And obviously, thank you to the Photographers Gallery, Photo Museum, and Pro Helvetica. So I'm going to start just by saying, what do you do if you can't bear to be alone, but are frightened both of rejection and invasion? Warhol's answer to these conundrums predates the smartphone era by half a century. Warhol deployed a panoply of recording devices to manage content, to lure it close and to ward it off, an avatar of our own compulsive romance with technology. With these charismatic tools, he could at once attract people to him and invade or deflect them. He was a butterfly collector, gathering essences for perpetuity and subjecting the chosen to the Warhol makeover, the ravishing process of duplication. This excerpt is actually from an article in the Financial Times by Olivia Lane, which really resonates with me because I'm fascinated by these insights on how Warhol foreshadowed the use of technology, duplicity, and multiple presence and network-driven practices, as well as its own interplay with confinement, solitude and loneliness, and its impact on art, especially now because of COVID, and how we all use social media. The uses of devices like the zoetrope I found has really inspired my art practice, and I found those mechanics utterly compelling. So my love of experimentation has been fueled by this methodology of my practice, which is as a facilitator and thinker and maker. And it's a very personal expression of how I explore the world as a working class woman of colour, transforming the personal into the political. And then that's, I guess, how I started Her Visions, because of the short form moving image I was experiencing on social media. So I guess I just talk a little bit about Her Visions, and as I said, it was born out of a frustration of the art that I was experiencing on online platforms, and I really wanted to democratize the way art was experienced and viewed outside of the white cube, but not necessarily eliminating it, but also being able to make it accessible through the lens of marginalized people. So I work with augmented reality and digital art exhibitions online and offline with clients and institutes that include Lux and Art by Tate Modern, Google Arts and Culture, and Art Night, just to name a few. And Her Visions is really an evolving response to the tools of the trade and artistic practices that are out there. So I'm going to just share my phone screen. So just give me a minute, a second. And might take a moment. So last year, well, I've done a number of different programs using augmented reality. Last year, I worked on a program with Tate, and I love that you can just see all of my screen here. So I actually worked on a program with the Tate, and it was this Tate augmented reality. It was a workshop and program using Spark, and it was a face filter exhibition of moving image, and it was part of the Lives of Net Art program, of which it consequently travelled to the BFI and Tate Britain. I conceptualised the format of a Spark augmented reality workshop, curated digital artefacts and OBJ files, which were donated by the artists to be recycled and to create augmented reality face filters alongside an exhibition of pre-published face filters, which were activated by QR codes. And it was critically exploring approaches to face filters that are becoming more and more prolific in our digital language. So I can just flick through some of the amazing activations that we were able to explore. And then I recently curated a program for Lux, which was called Out of Touch. And Lux was the Out of Touch program was included some online commissions and events, discussions and performances reflecting on the idea of touch and its digital analogues in the post-touch world. It's aimed to understand new vocabularies of touch when all we have is the digital space, considering how isolation has accelerated our digital vocabulary and what a meaningful language of touch might be beyond the physical. The program was, as I said, an evolving curatorial proposition with a sort of femme-focused constellation of ideas. I worked on, as well as moving image works presented on Lux's website, there were site-specific performances on Instagram stories, Twitter, and an interactive work streamed on Twitch. And I'm just going to show you the project which was the site-specific performance on Instagram stories. As you can see, this is touch as a responsibility, touch as a responsibility, which is as I said, a site-specific interactive animation where the participant's touch controls the movements of the frame. As you can see, I'm kind of touching through, and you can see how that is animating the work. And I can tell you that the first and last stills in each performance were created by the artist Heaney, based on extensive research into representations of the body in computer vision and artificial intelligence, and parallels in our art history highlighting the biases in which bodies are seen and neglected in both. The subsequent frames in the animation were generated by passing the initial frame through a quantum computer, which through entangled pixels fragments and inverts the image. So in every frame, the body from the initial image always exists, but the quantum computer enables us to see it from an alternative multiple perspectives, boundaryless and formless. And then the stills are watched with a computer vision algorithm, open pose, which loses track of the body as it is released from its encoded shackles. I also worked on a project as part of the program, the evolving Out of Touch program, which was called Divine Touch, which was an augmented reality filter designed by Tabitha Swanson. And I can I'll go to this, which is actually, you can find here. And so this is a little filter. which I'll be able to give you a little demo of it. So this filter was in response to an artist, Leah Pore's film, I Told You He Was Never Really Gone. And in her video, Leah Pore addresses the ritual of divine touch informed by her investigation into online forums and conspiracies of King Louis XVII's secret ritual of immortality. She looks at burgeoning online communities and subcultures that are prone to cult enrollment and marginality in real life. Here, the filter retains the same fluid retention to the real, but offers a first-hand experience of the shrine. No ritual happens, and it might never have truly existed. The two-sided filter appears as clickbait, claiming that you are the chosen one. Flipping the camera reveals a true secret power, an alternative shrine of divine touch, a space dedicated to healing, and it's rendered available for all to participate in and explore. So you can see there's some little bits of the filter there. And then moving on, I also presented Claudia Hart's fantastical augmented reality work called Neumort. And this was also part of our Touch program, and it was a fine artisanal porcelain dish on which an enigmatic, I'll just get this for you, which was a fine porcelain dish in which an enigmatic naked sleeping odalisque is viewed through augmented reality software. Initially conceived to be a prop for a live performance, Neumort is a virtual grotesquerie in which imaginary cockroaches run amok. And then you can kind of see this little demo of how you'd activate it by downloading Blip, and which is an augmented reality app. You can't access this work on, and this is another demonstration of it. And then you've also got this target as well, which is the circular shape at the bottom, which if you download the app and you use your phone, you'd be able to activate the augmented reality also. So, I mean, Hart's animated erotica portrays this like fantastical beauty and untouchable, but it's kind of unsettling and surreal at the same time. And actually, Claudia Hart emerged as part of a generation of 90s intermediate artists in the identity art context, and she still examines issues of identity, now focusing on technology. Technology's effects on cultural constructions of gender identities and issues of the body perception, and nature collapsing into technology and then back again. I was also lucky to work with the Tape recently on some filters. So I would just, with this artist, LA-based artist called Huntress, who I will go talk a little bit about later as well when I go through some of my artists to kind of look out for, who I think are trailblazing at the moment. So these two filters, so that's Huntress, and then we can go to Tate. So there was, so these are the filters, which are really amazing. So this kind of, there's two filters that use insectoid aesthetics to query gender identity, and which is this one, and also this one. Can you see the insects that are inspiring them? And then it situates the user into like and then the third one situates the user into a fantastical, sprawling, edited render of the Tate Britain building. And then Huntress kind of commented on these, the magic of face filters, that I can be more myself, I can choose to be an extension I can transform and I can become something new. I can embody something magic that is within me. So I'll try this one for you just so that you can kind of have a little idea of what I look like in it. It's kind of fun for me. I mean, it's kind of fun for you, really fun for me, but kind of fun for you. And then I recently also just had a residency at Arbite, which is an art and technology gallery based in London. I worked on a project, as I said, The Art of No Likes, which was an ongoing critical investigation into the systems of curating. And the programme was a reflection on the implications and standardizations within social media infrastructures. And the project shines a critical gaze on the gatekeepers of these infrastructures and associated economies of like and related systems of value judgments inherent to capitalist social media platforms. So I know there's a lot of politics with when we're using these platforms. There's obviously the sort of data colony capture that is occurring, but also there's a lot of accessibility that is occurring. So this sort of paradigm is something I'm really interested in, and sort of how we sort of move through industries and across interdisciplinary, anti-disciplinary practices. I was trying to understand through this residency and sort of more the rigid architecture of social networks. And like one of the projects that came out of this was a project called Haptic Paradigm. And sorry, it's like this, I didn't realize that these the live feed of Instagram is also interplaying into my narrative, which is wonderful. So I'm going to just show you just back here. So this is a recent project. As I said, Haptic Paradigm, where guests were asked to take short turns on a website-based installation, and that was which housed this sort of generative compositions created by interaction by the audience. So they interacted with artist Brenna Murphy's Visual Realm and Chloe Alexandra Thompson's Sonic Landscape as a live-streamed and visual installation, and it was with them in collaboration with Johnny Ray Alt, who made the web tools. And this was all, the project was there to really explore the ways we remain in relationship to one another, despite being in isolation and outside of immediate view. And guests were sort of asked to take short turns interacting within the gallery, and you had to sort of wait your turn. So yeah, that was a really fun project. Again, trying to kind of understand how we can communicate outside of standardized protocols of social networks and social media. Then I also worked on a project called the Salon of Disobedience, and I'll just get some images up for you so I can share. So the Salon of Disobedience, Algorithmic Intimacies, was an immersive series of performative workshops and online conversations and salons. The evening of collective debate and exchange focused on peripheral voices and fostering the spirit of rebellion. Participants were encouraged to bring along digital ephemera such as voice notes, screenshots and memes, and all like-minded content from their personal digital archives, together with artist Noof Al-Mahiri. These art materials were shared in a performative and participatory workshop interrogating intimacy and disclosure as algorithmic events. So virtual reality headsets were offered for imagined intimacy, which we provided for those who wanted to take up discussion, providing us with a cloak of anonymity we wear in our online lives within the physical environment. It also featured an interactive wall, which you can see here, and a reading event. This project composed a temporary site, a third space of sorts, where the spectres of our multiple disembodied self collectivized within a physical territory. So that was the Salon, and that was also curated with another curator, Lauren El-Hilary. So now I'm gonna, I wanted to just, I've given you sort of a little, overview of some of the projects I work on as a curator and what I do through Her Visions, amongst many other things, as a facilitator, organizer. I'm gonna just talk a little bit about, sort of the history of AR just very loosely. So we know that the world of augmented reality and face filters is a thriving discipline, with artists all around the world using the medium to critically examine issues and explore concepts from gentrification to transhumanism. So the launch of Pokemon Go in 2016 saw augmented reality firmly stake its claim in the world, as the game was downloaded by more than 500 million users. Since then, museums and institutes, brands have integrated augmented reality into their exhibitions, and also brands using the filters for marketing tools and to launch their products, for example. We know that sort of augmented reality is being described as a new genre of performing arts, a reality bending hybrid, hyper-connected tool that is breaking down the barriers of distance and access, connecting users and uniting the worlds of art, fashion, beauty, and technology. But as we know, it has come a long way from its beginnings. The technology was invented in 1968 when Ivan Sutherland, a Harvard professor and computer scientist, created the first computer-controlled wearable head-mounted display system called the Sword of Damocles, and the user experienced computer-generated graphics that enhance their sensory perception of the world. I'm just gonna have a play with some of these other filters. I'm gonna just put normal sunglasses on actually. So during the 1990s, early augmented reality systems were used by NASA, and in the military, that superimposed virtual information on the physical environment. Virtual fixtures was an augmented reality system allowing military personnel to virtually control and guide machinery to perform tasks like training the US Air Force pilots on safer flying practice. And also NASA created a hybrid synthetic vision system of their X-38 spacecraft to assist in providing better navigation during their test flights. The augmented reality component displayed map data right on the pilot's screen. So, and then in 1994, we're kind of moving forward a little bit. Julie Martin, a writer and producer, created an augmented reality entertainment, brought augmented reality into the entertainment industry, and for the first time worked with a theatre production, and that was titled Dancing in Cyberspace. I wish I could find the correct one for Dancing in Cyberspace, but maybe it would look a little bit like this. We start to see public use of augmented reality in 2014 as Google releases its line of Google Glass devices and a pair of augmented reality glasses that users could wear for immersive internet experiences. In 2016, Microsoft also developed an augmented reality headset called the HoloLens, allowing users to scan their surroundings and create their own AR experiences. Snapchat opened up its augmented reality software in December 2017, allowing people to make their own filters for free and without requiring any coding experience. Instagram followed suit in 2019, opening its filter creation software, which is called Spark, and obviously Lens Studio for Snapchat. And now face filters are ubiquitous on both platforms. So what used to be a niche medium is now more accessible than ever. So this has led to the rise of networked community of artists and users creating and using and connecting through augmented reality technology. So the Effect Gallery has become a hub that brings together practitioners and fans from around the globe. I'm just going to take a little sip of my drink. And so I guess this community that has been built around the accessibility of filters, you know, has now influenced a lot about where we are today, and we're discussing up these kind of new vocabularies of communication and new semantics. So opposed to like a medium through which to experience art, augmented reality has become a discipline of art in its own right, with its own aesthetic, language, theory and praxis. Recently, and particularly because of what the coronavirus pandemic has meant for experiencing art, we have now seen a lot of artists working in sculpture, filmmaking or painting, and then transitioning into VR, augmented reality or coding, for example. Technology and the internet is informing these shifts of form, and technology has been a catalyst for these accessible art making, and with its access to 5G, things are moving even faster. Hello. Are we liking this filter? I'm kind of into this one. So is my screen still sharing?
No, it's not sharing now.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna just go back to, I think it's just popped up, I think. Bear with me on a second. Sharing now?
Yeah, but not sharing the phone, sharing your desktop now.
It should be.
Yeah, I guess that you should stop sharing your desktop and go back. Yeah, that's it. Perfect.
Okay, thanks. Okay, let me just. So, as I was saying, however controversial, so we've gone from this idea of, you know, it's a new medium of art that we're experiencing with its own aesthetic, language and theory and praxis, and then but obviously enabled by these capitalist companies. So, I mean, however controversial that might be, and however controversial techno-capitalist endeavours are they are still enabling creative means for people otherwise who would not have the means of self-expression. So there's this, you know, this democratization of technology, but also, you know, capture of data, which has another currency. So take Facebook's Spark AR or Snapchat Lens Studio, both controversial because they own everything you publish, and perhaps through this facade of creativity is a much sinister data capture colony. But I mean, I'm also one as a sort of self-taught director. I think this idea of physically owning your own tools and equipment is something, because most of us have phones, is something I'm very pro and supportive of. Did that go off again? No. Sorry.
No, it's working now. We can see your phone.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So as I said, so there's something very democratic about this materiality of digital, but also very undervalued, because they are because it's free and accessible to most. They allow an interactive experience with audiences and users, disrupting these spaces. And this also means that, like, outside the eliteness of museums and the art and you know, kind of traditional art spaces, by breaking down the binary between art and consumer. So the consumer becomes the art is overlaid on the consumer. So this invigorates and animates art, rendering it a participatory act as opposed to a passive one. So because users can interact with the work, it realigns the viewer with the artwork, as opposed to constructing a one-way relationship between the two. In a recent interview, actually in ID, filter artist, who I'll introduce some of her filters later, Johanna Jaskowska, said, "I think the uniqueness of Instagram filters is that the final output is something just contemplative and passive. Like, it isn't just something that's contemplative and passive like a painting could be, but it's a real collaboration with the users. In a way, it's like creating a new genre of art performance experience where the user performs and becomes the central focus, not the effect. Without them, nothing exists anymore." So AR art can exist anywhere at any time, and as long as there's an internet connection. So instead of one artwork existing in a physical location, content can be made available in many places at once. So this allows for a decentralized experience of art that disrupts the construction of the traditional space for experiencing art like you would in a museum. So AR artists can share their work with a global audience, and users can experience the art in whichever place or time they choose, and then obviously rendering it with the ability to become viral and easily shared. So it is also a really sustainable medium. As a digital artist can create an AR sculpture, for example, so they can create as I said, an AR sculpture, but require no physical tools or material except for the software that they are using. So within that kind of allows for things to be this sort of endless sort of new possibilities, and then also it creates no waste and it incurs no extra costs, as long as you have the physical the actual software that you can use to create these AR pieces. So it's also impermanent, decentralized, and easily shared. Considering the current climate crisis and the current globalized networks, AR seems to hold the answer to many problems in terms of artistic production as well. So considering like the current political, economic, health and climate crisis we are experiencing globally, we are all toying with the idea that distorting reality might be more fun than living in it. Living in it. So AR allows artists to make the world incredibly playful, absurd and funny to engage in a deeply immersive and emotional way. So I'll just show you. I was meant to like get some of my crazy ones, but here's some. There's a couple of me just chilling at home. These are mainly predominantly face filters, but I will also introduce some of the other artists, and that also have more world lenses. So I'll just finish up on this section that was just saying that I guess augmented reality has kind of become, can be described as a collective hallucination that might recharge people to imagine and create new possibilities for themselves and share their ideas for the future. Face filters are enjoyed as long as they allow for radical change. Face filters are enjoyed as they allow for radical changes without long-term commitment or cost, and the exciting manipulation of aesthetics that they offer. But artists are vouching for the potential of AR to bring about real change. So by creating immersive art experiences, forging a vision of the future and virtuality, manifesting it into the physical world, artists are using filters and AR to grapple with some of the most pressing issues of the present. So I'm just now going to go and I want to introduce some of the trailblazing artists, I would say, that are using face filters and augmented reality to imagine new realities. And so Teresa, I'm going to go back to my Instagram. And so Teresa Fogolari, she's an Italian-born London-based creative director, specialising in 3D and motion design, with a penchant for all things exaggerated. Now, with that, she created this filter, which you can see here, which is called Princess Caroline. So she's actually, so this was actually, she understands augmented reality beauty as a general sort of play with looks in an interactive, rapidly accessible and impermanent way. So, but her filters, Plastica and Princess Caroline, were inspired by prosthetic makeup and some Italian celebrities with botched surgery, with who she grew up watching on TV. For her, like, filters are a quick, non-committal way to try and look that many of us have entertained ideas of how they'd work on us, if not with serious intentions, at least for fun. So in light of, I'll actually show what it does to me. So this one, I'm going to try it. As you can see, it's quite, looks, I have had a bad face cosmetic surgery. Face job. Anyway, just a whole face job there. And but in light of Instagram's decision, as I said, that this one and then this filter, which Plastica, was actually banned from Instagram. She said that, I mean, the decision to remove that plastic surgery filter, Teresa sees as a failure to distinguish between filters that carry a narrative, which was her inspiration for making the film, behind them, and then purely just commercial works, because there's lots of, for example, there's lots of lip enhancing filters that continue to be approved, which suggests lip enhancement has become culturally standard to such an extent that it's no longer considered actual plastic surgery. So the work, this work sparks debate around the boundaries of ethical practices in design, I think. So, yeah, I mean, she actually says, personally, I've always perceived filters as more than just a look. Within my creation of Plastica and Princess Caroline, in addition to several others that were never approved, I've always tried to tell stories through looks. And I understand concerns about plastic surgery related filters having long lasting effects on users, but I would argue that these filters are just results of a long established and heavily embedded social media culture, and we as users have been building over the past decades. So I guess this is what we're feeding the system with. So next, I'm going to go on to another artist, and also, yeah, this Crybaby. If you want to look like a baby, I guess you can also try this one as well. Anyway, you can check that out on her Instagram. So the next artist that I wanted to just introduce, and just giving you sort of a brief introduction to some of the artists on my radar. So Inez Alpha, if anyone knows augmented reality face filters, you probably have heard of Inez. She describes herself as an e-makeup artist. they're fantastical. The augmented reality face filters allow us to rethink the whole sort of mind and body, and they allow us to, I'm just going to try this one. So they allow us to enter dreamlike, surreal states and explore humorous physicalities that defy biology. So very surreal type filters that capitalize on the chaos and political buffoonery of our time by creating an experience different from anything that we could experience in real life. So augmented reality face filters allow the escapism and relief and comedy of self-expression. This was this one, which is really fun. And so they allowed us to sort of generate our own biofictions, interrogating what is natural and what is synthetic. And they allow us to question how we represent ourselves and our lives on the internet. So by walking the boundaries between the natural and the unnatural, augmented reality face filters provide virtual mutations and a glimpse of future possibilities of what it means to be human. So I'm hoping I might be able to wear that look at some point, perhaps, but who knows? Right, so next I'm just going to introduce some work of Sibeli Cavalli-Bastos, and so Sibeli has a very sort of like conceptual expanded field and interdisciplinary practice that uses like performance and sound art, objects, installation, currently operating daily through like social media stories. I mean, you just have to sort of click through to see how active they are on social media. And then, but they're sort of researchers in intra-politics and theory and devising nanopolitics and corrosive strategies through deprogramming self and ID of societal malware. So at a personal and collective level, and their work looks for like trigger mechanisms and addresses like the deconstruction and formation of identities and what stands in between self and presence in our multi-selves, and how that interacts with each other and our surroundings. And so I'm just, and like also their work kind of engages strongly with activism, and they've created a lot of augmented reality face filters on the validity of like queer body and anti-racism. So like this, there's some amazing filters, which are all pretty fun. We'll go back to some of them. Also, like, you know, just trying to make people understand pronouns as well. I think, you know, it seems very simple, but it's still, not everyone wants to be called she or he. So Sibeli's work really focuses on this sort of deprogramming of our sort of, you know, I guess these kind of fundamental inherent biases that we have, and inviting others to sensitize towards our capacities of being many and truthful to others. So they use Instagram as a tool for digestion to deprogram and unlearn. So creating a closed loop to perform multiple avatars. And I wanted to also just introduce Tabitha Swanson, because Tabitha made the cancelled filter that was used for the promo for the event tonight. And so I'll just quickly show you Tabitha. And so their filter Cancelled was the one that we use here. So Cancelled was actually created. Cancelled was actually created as a critique of Instagram's ban on nipples after one of the accounts of like countless friends have been disabled because they showed non-male nipples. The hypersexualization and targeted oppression of women, of bodies of women and non-binary people is obviously gross and needs to stop. So that was like to do with the campaign Free the Nipple. And Tabitha Swanson appears as a specimen of an online race, and she is a designer and creative technologist using 3D rendering, augmented reality face filters, and sometimes synthetic makeup. And she has she's a multidisciplinary designer, creative strategy, and fashion and art director. I think we sort of need to start rounding up. Is that right for time?
Yeah, I think it's a good time to maybe invite the speaker for a discussion.
Yeah, sure. Well, actually, I'm just going to go on and speak about Ricebox Studio. So bringing on, so Ricebox Studio is a design practice created by 4 designers, Sophia, Maria, Bristi, and Anna, who use creative technology and visual communication for social good with an interest in creative tech, interaction design, education and representation. All recent graduates of Camberwell Graphic Design. They collaborated a year ago at the Tate Exchange and run workshops with them. And they also, during this week, however, the Basma, Osman, Sophia did a talk on period poverty and periods within different cultures in light of the news of the death of a 21-year-old woman in Chahabadi, and where in a cowshed where a woman was sent during menstruation. So she died from smoke inhalation as she lit a fire to keep warm. So this talk was the first attempt at trying to chisel away at the shame and stigma. They weren't fully aware that the surrounding topic of menstruation. So they created Red Cloud Project, and amongst other things, period positive or period awareness filters. So the period cam, which this is all really about, telling us how you feel. There's no real right or wrong. You're feeling moody, sad, angry, hungry, and so this is really a place to share your stories through the period cam. And that's amongst other things that I know Maria's working on. So it would be a real pleasure to bring Maria, who's going to be on the panel. So I will say hello, and I guess it's nice to see you.
Hi, nice to see you all.
Thanks for coming. So I guess I just, your real focus is on what we spoke about before, activism, with it using augmented reality for activism. And I guess my first question, like as we sort of segue into the panel, would be like, what do you think augmented reality can offer as a space for activism that IRL spaces can't?
So you've touched upon it earlier, but the connectivity, the fact that you can basically reach out to a wider range of people due to the fact that it's online, so you don't really have that barrier. And along with the barrier, you also have like this idea that, so Glenn Cantevi, I think that's how you pronounce his name, is an activist that worked with using augmented reality to recontextualize statues and history around us. And he basically said the one thing with AR that you can use in activism is that you don't need to ask for permission. Let's say you want to create like a digital guerrilla artwork in an institution, like a museum was also kind of institution that you're against, like Occupy Wall Street. Well, what you can do is you don't need to ask, for a permission to go there and create a piece of art. You can't get sued for it. What you can do, however, is create this like gigantic digital intervention that everyone can be part of. So that's something that is interesting, this idea of not like having to ask for permission to create digital guerrilla artwork. And I guess it's also redefining what activism means. So a lot of people think as well that activism is like grassroots campaigns and like really like, being able to create something from scratch that is like akin to a protest. But really, activism can also just be creating a conversation, getting people to just talk about the topic, even as individuals between them and their friends. That's already a form of activism that is often overlooked. So augmented reality can explore alternative ways of activism, such as like the period cam, where we just get people to just talk about their periods, just open the conversation and break the taboo. So yeah, so I guess that's some ways that AR can be very useful for activism.
Yeah, I guess redefining, yeah, like you said, this redefinition of the word activism, I think, and that's something that I think it has a lot of loaded connotations to it, and I think it's not, I would not say it's a sort of like gentler or lighter sort of introduction to activism maybe, but it's a way of, like you said, opening a discussion, which is the first step, right? Of awareness. And so so thanks, Maria. So I'm going to pose a question, I think, to Mathilde, and we'll introduce her back into the space. So I just wanted to ask, so what sort of new opportunities do you think augmented reality offers artists? You're someone that, you know, works with you're really kind of groundbreaking, very innovative kind of forms, and you'll also be of augmented reality and upcycling. You're doing, you know, a workshop afterwards. So yeah, I'd love to hear kind of what you're thinking about that.
I mean, I feel I was interested in augmented reality from a sustainable perspective. That was really like how I got into it, I guess. Because basically, yeah, you know, it's similar to what augmented reality brings to activism, this aspect of, you know, being able to create a guerrilla artwork without asking for permission. It's the dematerialization, basically. And another part of this, of the dematerialization, is it's no waste. So it's I think it's an incredible medium to be able to produce new ideas without creating more waste. And I think it really answers you know, kind of a contemporary aspect of our identity, which has completely been emphasized during lockdown, where we all went on Zoom, we spent more time on social media, and just these, you know, during those last 5 years, something like this, we've just spent so much more time online. A whole chunk of our identity now is completely online. And you know, for somebody who comes from a design from a fashion design perspective, how do we dress this kind of digital identity? And that's really, you know, that's what the workshop is going to be afterwards. And I think that's what I find, yeah, really, really interesting, to be able to create those kind of digital garments without creating any waste. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan, and I'm really excited to see this workshop as well. So thank you, Mathilde. Before we go into a bit more of a sort of open discussion, I'd like to invite Scarlet. So Scarlet, I guess, so what really attracted you to...
Hello, hiya.
Oh, hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Oh
Hello?
God.
Seems like Scarlet has disappeared into the void.
Lovely.
Well, maybe while we wait for her to reconnect, you can start a discussion already, and when she comes back, we can get back in to join the rest of the panel.
Sure. Okay. Well, I think this actually is a question that applies to you both, Maria and Mathilde. Is that, I guess, is what new opportunities do you think AR can offer artists, for example?
I mean, Mar, do you want to go, or
You go ahead, sorry.
no? I feel like one of the main things that it offers is there's a lot of those softwares that allow you to create AR, including Spark, including Lens Studio, which is like what's allowing us to have what we have on our faces right now that are free. So I feel like it might be an amazing opportunity to kind of democratize the art world. I think that's like the main impact. Is gonna allow people to be able to create artwork in a small town where there's no art galleries. It's gonna allow people who don't have a lot of money to invest in making a bronze sculpture to be able to create artworks without being in an art city or without having a lot of money.
Completely agreed. It basically democratizes also creative technology to most people. Like the thing that's fantastic, for example, with Spark AR, I know it sounds like I'm promoting it, but it's just that it's such an easy tool, as an example, an easy platform for everyday people to create augmented reality, that from there, that could be like a starting point for then other people, for the same person to then explore further tools. And it could be basically like a gateway tool for you to then start exploring other forms of AR and then start involving it into your own practice as a creative practitioner. Also, Scarlet is back, by the way.
Right. I just wanted to point out, so yeah, Scarlet's back from the void. Thanks.
Sorry about that.
Someone from the audience is asking if Zaiba, you could stop sharing the phone screen so we could see the faces of the speakers.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yes. Stop share. There you go. Is that better?
Yeah, I think, yes.
I should have turned that off. Sorry.
No worries. There's a lot of things that going on in Zoom. We know it's not so easy.
It's hard to see what's live, what's not, because there's lots going on. Yeah.
Sorry, there was just like a technical intervention and a request from the audience, but please.
Thank you.
Scarlet.
Nice to sorry about that, everyone. Yeah, just internet. Yeah, so I'm Scarlet, and I'm also kind of focusing on the idea of creating an avatar, especially because of my background's in fashion. I've done you can see at the back like these so I extend the idea of using filter to express yourself as almost like a mask. Expand this idea to almost like your whole body, including the environment, and even say changing your skin color. In this case, behind they don't look human anymore. So yeah, I was kind of getting inspirations from like Japanese anime and gaming, and they're fans of gaming and anime and manga. Their activity has been a tradition that they dress up as their favorite character, and I've kind of like drawn inspiration from this, and to see how now we have like really accessible AR tools, like not promoting it, but Spark AR and other 3D software that's like there's tutorials online YouTube that it's quite accessible to learn. So yeah, to expand this idea of say, okay, then how do we generate different characters for people to have like more diverse choices of expressing themselves? And and then through this behind is the software, and I'd say the screenshot of the software, as you can see, and then also we were talking about how it's what was it that it's linked to sustainability, isn't it? Like Mathilde's upcycled collection, and for me also, like I've also used practice that's combining both physical and digital mediums to create say my fashion collection. And then behind me is like using algorithm generated method to generate like hundreds of characters, and you can choose from them. Each one of them is randomized, so you never get the same one. So putting them into different environments, it really gives it a narrative. That's something like a lot of the artists, designers can explore. And and in the form of like people use it in the form of like say face filter on Instagram is a form of expression. Also like this 3D animation, 3D rendering, and gaming like games like this and many more, I guess. Yep.
There's a question from the chat that I wonder if it's a good time to bring it in, but I think it's quite related to the topic that you're discussing now. So Julia is, let me read it. AR in the mainstream is most often used to help women make themselves look younger, /whiter, more in line with beauty standards, and has been criticized heavily for creating pressure to be all these things. It's super cool to see so many examples of AR being used subversively, but I'm curious how you all would weigh up whether AR reinforces social norms more than it gives people tools to subvert them.
Mm-hmm. I feel, sorry, if anyone wants to start first.
Yeah.
I just wanted to start off by saying, so first of all, fantastic question, because there's a lot of discussion around that, especially with what Zaiba touched upon earlier, with like, you know, the face deformation filters being banned at some point and then being brought back. And anyways, I would say that there's a difference, first of all, between AR and specifically face filters, because the one thing that, yeah, it is true that one of the most mainstream forms of AR is the face filter that you find on social media. However, I would argue that AR as a general tool, because it's further than just a face filter you find on social media, but it's literally a creative tool that is also found, you know, in other platforms, and it can be used in so many other ways than face filter. I would argue that actually it would give people more tools to subvert them, purely because it is such a wide tool, such a tool that is open to so much creativity. Like these guys have been using, like to use it to like transform your face in like alien shapes and stuff. But I would say that the issue is mainly the platform on which AI is used, because it is true that, for example, when I was looking for a face filter on Snapchat, most of the ones offered to me were the ones, you know, clearing my skin up, giving me cute freckles and nice eye color, which is what I've got right now. So it is definitely up to discussion, but I would separate AR from specifically face filters.
Yeah, I think with the thing is, like, I do think in specifically Instagram face filters, there are a couple of biases within the program itself. For example, there is one setting, let's say, in the program in Spark AR that is part of like the default settings, which is face smoothing. So that kind of, you know, those programs are created by people, so they're also kind of reflective, you know, like of the norms that we have in our society at the moment. And so yeah, so there is definitely, you know, at the moment some bias in the program. Instagram has, you know, has tried to kind of regulate this. Like a little backstory, Mario, you touched upon this a little bit, but in my if I'm remembering this properly, basically, there was one specific filter as well that showed like visible plastic surgery, you know, kind of like bandages, blood, you know, like just post-surgery, and that was part of the arguments that got face modifications banned. What I call face modifications, it's like the option basically to make all your eyes bigger, your mouth plumper, that changes the shape of your face, really. And interestingly enough, like the person who put that filter out there was explaining that they were trying to denounce plastic surgery instead of putting it forward. So it's an interesting debate because it's quite complex, because it's like a completely new tool for us, like for us as a community using Instagram, I guess, where you're able to modify your face and in a very temporary manner as well. It's not as big of a decision than plastic surgery, for example. You can just do it for a couple of moments.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was, you know, yeah, I think some of the things that I was touching on, I guess, in my sort of presentation, the sort of constructs that we're sort of the parameters that are existing around face filters, which is on the specific, more that specific question of face filters and how that's informing our standards of beauty, or what is beauty or real beauty. And I feel, yeah, like as Maria was saying, with augmented reality, it's obviously not just this, obviously face filters, and there's also world lenses that we can experience through these social media platforms. But I think it's more, you know, it is the fact that we have these things that are accessible on our phone in our everyday lives, which is obviously perpetuating a sort of maybe also in, of course, in some ways sort of unhealthy kind of realities or kind of expectations of reality.
Yeah, there's another question from the audience, Zaiba, that might be interesting also to bring in by Laura, who is asking, she says, was it mentioned that Instagram and Snapchat own the rights to anything made with their technology? How did the panel feel about that relation to the democratization of art that was also mentioned earlier? Seems a bit of a mismatch.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, she says that how do the panel feel about that in relation to the democratization of art that was also mentioned earlier, that it seems a bit of a mismatch.
Yeah, this is it. This is what I guess I think what I really try to explore with her visions is the sort of the accessibility of technology and how, especially for augmented reality, as I said, augmented reality is not a new thing, but it's about the accessibility of it, which has really kind of exploded because of techno-capitalist companies like Spark and Snapchat making these programs free and downloadable. So my practice and my sort of curatorial project through her visions really tussles with this paradigm. You know, I have a social media platform, but then I'm also like a working class woman of color, and I'm really trying to, you know, work as a creative, for example, in an industry which is not there to support me. And so from as a personal experience, you know, I find like this kind of tussle really interesting, and it's actually, you know, I think with an overview of what I've just presented, it's really trying to kind of demonstrate the way that I try to navigate digital spaces, essentially, to try to exist and to have small moments of activism and minor victories of success within these infrastructures that are built to not support me, essentially. So it's a constant paradigm of like, how do you using the system to fight against the system. So that's the thing that I guess just doesn't match, and it's something I don't have a full answer for, but it's something that I love toying and trying to investigate, and that's only through I guess the sort of many projects that I've worked on is a constant sort of exploration of these politics, inherent politics, and also running a femme focused platform, which is a political statement in itself, you know, like trying to just promote female, non-binary, femme identifying artists is also something that is a statement as well. So it's like trying to kind of, trying to make some progress.
Related to progress, in fact, Sam has also sent another question asking, where would you like to see augmented reality going in the future?
Oh my God. Well, let someone else go first. Who's got an answer to that?
No pressure, just give us the future of AR.
Mathilde,
No, go ahead.
I guess one thing that I'd like to see, I don't know if it's like AR specifically, but I guess it's like part of it is being able to effectively measure how effective, like the effectiveness of AR, like its impact, being able to properly measure its impact, first of all, either in the field of entertainment, but also in the field of activism, because at the moment it's such a new field that whenever somebody creates like a new form of activism of AR, it's really hard to see whether or not it has a genuine impact and with the goals that you're aiming to set. And the other thing, I guess, in the more like tech general AR, what I would love to see in the future is, well, having more of us experimenting with it outside of like Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat. Like I want to see more people experiment. Like Spark AR, like I said, fantastic way, you know, to start with AR. But then it would be great if we can start like investing more into like platforms of AR that isn't necessarily connected to social media. So what a good one is like RTViv, for example, where you can create like, so it's free and you can create augmented reality artworks and you don't have to rely on a social media platform. So it would be great if there's more, you know, focus on like more independent AR industries that also democratizes this tool and allows people to use it without being tied down to their personal data. And also more alternative, you know, ways of exploring AR in an everyday context outside. I want to see more AR protests. I want to see more AR guerrilla artwork. And yeah, sorry.
Definitely, like less corporate is a way forward. Yeah, the future of AR. Oh my gosh!
But that's like what, like just to like bounce back on what you were saying, and also the previous question that we had about the democratization, because that's something we mentioned in the meetings like leading up to this. Where basically, you know, social media has all those, you know, Instagram has all the constraints of as soon as you put a filter in there, it belongs to them. It's very corporate, you know, they're mining your data, all of that stuff, you know, but it's also the best way to reach people. So I feel like that's the paradox in a sense of this whole setting. Like, and I feel like that's why on one side it's democratic, but also completely part of an extremely, how would you call this, like a pyramidal system. Sorry, I hope that translates to English. You know, so yeah, so that's always the risk that you're taking if you develop an independent app. Like if you develop something in RTViv or something like this, you might reach less people. That's the risk, but also you're more independent. So it's a matter of kind of gauging, and you know, goes exactly with what Mario was saying, is this exact thing of trying to measure exactly like what is the impact, what is the better platform basically to have the right impact for what you're trying to achieve. Yeah.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Like for me, I think I would want to see say motion tracking technology being developed a bit more to be used on AR. So then we would be able to potentially make it even more accessible and, you know, everyday occasions. Say, yeah, so not just on social media, you have to have your phone then if we will be able to have like say points to track our accurately track like 360 degree of our body. Now it just for Spark AR, for example, for Instagram filters, you only work with your front of your face. If you put your hands on it, it just disappeared. So it's, I mean, the technology, it's not there yet. We're on the way. I think, yeah.
Just a note from my side. I think I really enjoying like how we talked about this ethical paradox, and we went to Scarlet asking for more pervasive technology being able to capture everything, which is really fantastic. In a way, I also want to remind everyone, and I think the audience also of Screenwalks and the audience in Zoom knows this, because this paradox in the realm of the image is something that has been accompanied like our journey, so to speak, in the sense that I do believe that we are in this paradoxical situation where we are somehow like trying to resist within the structures that create the problem in the first place somehow. And also at the same time, I don't think that there's an easy answer or a black and white solution where you can get out of it, or you can, you know, both when we talk about the cultural spaces and their logic, like Zaiba, I mean, you're doing this great curatorial work and this approach. At the same time, you're including it in the wide cube, right? Like when you go to this art institution. So you have that paradox there, and you have the paradox within the system of platform capitalism, within the pockets of resistance and the artistic approaches that are in the same spaces that are mining all of this data and capturing all of these things. So I do think that you've touched on a very important point, and like this idea of democratization somehow is connected, or it's maybe something that was like this utopian democratization at the beginning of the internet somehow, right? Like we've come full circle, where we're now kind of not illusioned, but at the same time, we are attempting to do something with the tools that are there. So
I was always fascinated by, I think, well, this idea of digital as well. So how, you know, how sort of the digital world is, you know, allows a different sort of accessibility for artists, and new media artists, for example. And I think we spoke about this when we sort of originally had our meeting, but it's just there's something really sort of undervalued as well within digital. So there's this kind of, with photography, for example, and the photographer's gallery, you know, it's kind of there's you know, this, and obviously the photo museum, there's this history with, you know, photographs and sort of analog. So there's a kind of the value of analog, you know, that sort of materiality of analog versus the immateriality of digital. Like that's kind of, you know, like I think this again, like and how that sort of feeds into how we kind of present ourselves with it. But I think that's, for me, something that, you know, the sort of digital tools were much more accessible to me and cheaper, as, you know, as a self-taught sort of director. I was able to kind of explore these kind of mediums, you know, like enabled to explore these mediums a lot easier than if I'd been trying to work on film as a director. So, you know, kind of seeing these kind of shifts.
Right, at the same time, I mean, I'm just thinking, like, I'm not going to open up the whole immaterial thing, but it just reminded me of the screen work we had with.
Oh, why not? Come on.
How she was connected in Zoom to somebody in Cuba who couldn't actually access Zoom. So it's showing very simply like how the image, the digital image, was so material in that sense.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, that's a nice one, Mathilde. Yeah. So was that, yeah, I guess like we've touched on, I guess, you know, a few areas of, you know, activism and I guess sort of this period poverty issues, I think. Is there anything, Maria, that you wanted to, because I was, did you want to sort of talk a bit about that a bit more?
I mean, we've touched upon it, and I guess enough. I mean, I guess the only other thing I'd say is, well,
how do you see it fitting into, like, with, you know, sort of, I guess, brands essentially, and museums, and how they're sort of adopting augmented reality? I think, you know, I think that's kind of, again, like trying to, I guess I've been trying to sort of work against these systems, work in the system, you know, and all of these kind of paradoxes. And then I guess, is this something that you're sort of interested in with
like augmented reality used by museums and different brands?
Yeah,
I guess like it is like any other form of advertising, an immersive form of advertising, I guess, that is quite, I guess, effective, especially on social media. I mean, I guess my perspective on that is like any other form of advertising. It's effective for them, and I know that they've been using it as like really effective digital campaigns. And there's more brands that are trying to explore AR for social good as well with it, whilst advertising their own brand. So I guess the only thing I would say is let's just basically wait and see how far they're going to push this tool, because they have the money, they have the resources to really push the boundaries of augmented reality. So I'm just more curious and interested to see how far they can take it, because a lot of like fantastic, you know, creative discoveries that is done with augmented reality is usually with people that have the money to do it, and especially the platform to do it, like bigger brands like Coca-Cola and whatnot. Like, for example, I remember the Pepsi, like an ad that Ricebox was really impressed by. Pepsi created this like augmented reality ad where people were at a bus stop, and whilst at the bus stop, you basically had like, you could you could look at the ad behind you at the bus stop, it was in London, and then suddenly you would see like the actual road behind the bus stop with like monsters popping out of everywhere, destroying everything around them. And people actually freaked out about that because it was so perfect and immersive and realistic that they were scared. And then suddenly you had a Pepsi brand come in, and then you realize it was an ad. So that's like something that we were really happy about, because it really inspired us to like explore different avenues for us to create our own digital campaigns that would be inspired by such a creative use of AR. So I'm curious to see how it's going to evolve, and I'm hoping we can get inspired from it to improve our own digital campaigns.
I would like it to just being able to, I guess, enhance our sort of senses more. I think, like, I know there's a lot of, there's an artist, Jess Harrington, who's working with this idea of augmented reality being able to be translated into ideas of how we can, what we consider as sort of taste and texture. And I think these kind of like sensory perceptions that, you know, are going to be evolved. So we will develop a different kind of understanding of perception and emotion and feelings because of this blurring of digital and physical. So I think for me, that's kind of where we're going into becoming, you know, transhumanists. So yeah, I think that's kind of like, I find it really, you know, exciting, but also, you know, I guess as to what kind of measures, sort of, what are we sort of really going to be lacking because of that? And I think that's the thing we have to also be aware of as well.
Oh yeah, there's going to be a lot of angry people. I don't think a lot of people will be happy about immersive advertisement. There's already a lot of like, you know, criticism of potential AI in advertisement that people are scared of. I mean, people weren't happy with like subliminal messages and stuff in the 80s. I doubt people are going to be, you know, enthusiastic about avenues that are proposed with AI advertising.
But also, you know, it does create, you know, a system of empathy. And I think beyond this empathy that we can be introduced or kind of we can experience, there's also these kind of new perceptions, sensory perceptions that will be evolving as humans as we become more integrated. So I think, yeah, I'm gonna just keep my pink wig on for now anyway.
It's like about the advertising aspect of it, because I feel like there's this element of like things are immersive in terms of art, but in terms of advertising, they become almost like prosumer content. So basically, the immersion results in prosumer content. So basically a mix of production and consumer, so where the consumer produces the content as well. So basically when you wear the face filter of a brand, you are producing content that serves to them as advertisement. And that's something that's starting to be studied a bit more, because, you know, the idea of prosumer that emerged a while ago, but adapted to immersive media is a little bit more recent. It was originally developed for like how do you call those, like web immersive worlds, like Second Life, things like this. And now, you know, you find yourself, if you're wearing a branded filter, you're, you know, like, are you branding yourself? Are you also you know, just being used as advertisement? So these are some of the questions that are kind of, you know, emerging right now in terms of the use of like those immersive mediums by basically for-profit organizations.
And I guess there's also a certain type of like agency from the prosumer, because in this case, like the advertisement relies on the consumer to be active, like it relies on their activeness. And therefore, if let's say they create a face filter but nobody uses it, like it's like a codependent relationship, would you say? Like that they have to rely on the agency of the prosumer in order for that advertisement to even go forward, for it to even work, to have any kind of impact.
I hate to do this because I think the conversation is really great, but I am being a bit worried about timing. So I think it's maybe a good moment to wrap it up so that people can still stay with us and follow the workshop with Mathilde. So let me be the first one to thank every one of you for joining this screen walk and have such interesting inputs and create such an interesting discussion about the technology, the artistic outputs, and the community that I'm sure for most of us was something that was not known, and it's very exciting indeed. So we are going to, no, please. I just wanted to remind everyone that we're gonna end the Zoom call now, but please keep watching on screenworks.com or on our Twitch channel, because Mathilde will lead a workshop in Spark AR. So it's your chance to become one of this AR artist community, and starting from your first Spark AR tutorial. Thanks, Mathilde. And I also want to remind everyone that we're going to be back in 2 weeks with Max Coulson in the 7th of October.